So, this book requires these babies. The writing is very small. The print's hard to read. I refrain from reading these kind of books. I try to choose my ignorance wisely. I already can feel there's a lot to be gained from it. But it's the application. Once you absorb this kind of information, there's a tension that needs to be expressed. And I don't know if I want to devote my energetic bandwidth to that. That's how I am with information a lot of times, knowledge, systems. It is a possession. And I try to find the parts of those systems that are dynamic, they're more alive, more fundamental to base principle of a flowing existence. I saw a clip of Bob Lazar on Joe Rogan. He is an engineering mind, a brilliant thinker, at least for atomistic things, material things. A lot of information, a lot of knowledge, a creative ingenuity. Hearing his description of this spacecraft or whatever he was on, he said the only thing he could relate to as knowing what it did was a door, how it opened and closed, an ingenious design. But just prior to that conversation was the answer to his own delusions, because he is blinded by the hubris of knowledge. They were speaking of free energy and wireless electricity and Tesla. And Bob said that the amount of interference that would be caused by that electric field would stifle modern technologies such as radio and other frequencies. And it just wouldn't work with our models. It is interesting how smart people can be in one way and how naive they can be in another. Even though he's seen the answer straight in his face with this supposed alien spacecraft, he didn't realize it's like the application of your instrument is far more important than the calibration if you're looking to expand horizons. If you're looking to fine-tune them, then it's what we praise as genius in this world, which is the replication and deconstruction of known pattern through validators. So for the creative genius to flow, it has to be something different. Everything unfolds. The void threw a harpoon into the heart of matter and pulled it back, and our expression is the result. So I mean, hubris, what hubris teaches, nemesis hubris, is the power of dynamics, multiple worlds colliding to spark new ignorance and new truth in those who can face dying in that way, killing their egos, their beliefs. They can take part in that kind of energy. An intuitive, creative pole. So I mean, while it is good that certain lines of belief will continue on, it is also good that new lines emerge. If you think of Aquarius, it is working through the emotional flows of life in Cancer. It's in service to the emotional poles, whether it knows it or not. This is the eternal lineage of creation. So it can recognize its polarity in opposition, which is the Leo, the sun, the paternal energy, trying to cast in stone purity of a truth. But what Aquarius understands is that the truth is in the service, it's in the application. It is what not only sustains but advances. But when the spirit's impure, when it is possessed by a Wentico type of energy, it is the dilapidation, the breaking down into the purity of a refinement which is essence to existence, which is rising in everyone. Many patterns are emerging in society. We're seeing the reset cycles more clearly. We're understanding the game, how Hegelian dialectic is part of the melody of the symphony. In this process, we realize the witness is replication. It is the four square, the tyrant, victim, martyr, savior. Creating a new energy, an option, an adversary to what that is through self-identification, sovereign individuality. Finding base truth, which is essentially what works for all of us. How is that in alignment with just essential creative nature, the flow of life? How do you get in tune with that? That's how you hold the spirit. It's really simple. What you observe, you are in replication to. You. What you neglect within, you project without. It's the shadow elements. Our power is what we chain ourselves to in the ego and the knowledge, in the gravity of being in relation to a shit show, If you want to see a grumpy truth, watch some Krishnamurti. You don't need to take anything you hear in this world or see as conviction. What is most valuable? Isn't life here to be lived, essentially. You know, I worked many years, a desk jockey, just sitting at a computer working on mundane shit. I realized the value of time and focus and learned all sorts of things. I domesticated myself, essentially, because I was tired. Then I woke up and realized it was a slow death, and now it's some other thing. Life happens like that. These are cycles. You embrace them in whatever way you are prepared to face them. It's up to us. You work the energy or it works you. These are all dynamics in life. It's reciprocity. So the gaze has to be a focus, you know. Delusion is the power of the illusion. What delusion do you hold? Is it something that was programmed into you, the village, the global village, the mother-father archetype, the not enough energy, the sacrifice, working through the self-value stuff, learning how you punish yourself for someone else's sins, which you took upon yourself when you're young. How the world rewards us to feed that pain back into it for the promise of a brighter future through libations to an external God, the creative for some replication. Every human being has so much potential, and we feed it into the pain loops which we fit into the society. We, nature, our nurture, a noble sacrifice for consensus relation. We're afraid of being exiled. We were disconnected from source, born into form, disconnected from the mother, born into air, disconnected from the father, born into life, into the passion. It's individuation, it's separation to know the unity of divide. Probably more and maybe less. It's all up to you. Symbolics, you know. What's your language? You can read it, then it's digesting the waves, swimming the ocean of life. I remember I was around the equator, somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. I was doing watch. When you work in the deck department, you are not quite the bottom. Some would argue you're at the bottom of the barrel as far as the quality of a person's conviction goes, or their abilities, cognitively speaking. But to me, it's the best place to be. People are more free-spirited in the deck department. We just, we're not as interested. In any case, I digress. So we would have to do watch duty and we're on 3-day shifts, so every third day you're going on 4 to 6 hours of sleep. But I mean, you get used to it, it's not a big deal. Routine is very easy to, you can overcome a lot of things with routine, but I digress. So I was at the aft of the ship, the back, and I was out on the platform looking over the ocean, just looking for lights basically. And the sky, the moon was not out, but it was so bright just from the starlight that you could see shadows from the waves. And you could see the wake of the boat. You could see how straight the driver was. You could usually tell who's driving, basically, because then you just kind of ask. But when you stare over the ocean, the only thing you can see is these waves and these sparkles and the stars. It is a trance. So I can understand how people get pulled into the water when they stare into the abyss. You know, they become the 10,000 things that lures you. And then you can hear the wind too, and it's very interesting to be there. It expands your awareness because it's a completely different world. You can even feel the winds. You can feel some winds from certain directions are cooler than others. There are all these subtle flows in life that we cannot sense because our senses are preoccupied in reflection to something which is entraining it. It's called friction from the laws of relation. If you want to say something like that, I guess. If you can understand, if you can feed your hubris an idea that ignorance is the nutrition of the gods, then I feel that's a koan you can grow into. And you can see the patterns in life, how that unfolds. And you can release the shadow of Leo, which is coming through as we burn away our own ignorance, our patterns. Seeing how the world is changing around us. It is a great reset in a way, it is, because all castes are being thrown into the fire for the purity to rise within us, regardless of where you come from in this world or what the world believes you to be. This is a human heritage type thing. So it's interesting to be alive. for watching, listening, and being, and all that stuff. Come on, what's going on with this thing?